Hey everybody, Boston Cynic here, and welcome to the first edition of Open Art Surgery. You show me a masterpiece, and I'll show you what it's made of. I've been called cynical, and downright insufferable to be around when I have to sit through something I see as a steaming pile of donkey shit. Frankly, I'm tired of being the only one to see these cinematic masterpieces for what they truly are. I plan to use this segment to pull back the mask and show you what it is that you're actually looking at. Now, I don't mean movies like Waterworld, which had all the time and money put into it and still flopped at the box office. Nor do I mean a movie like Avatar, which did very well at the box office, but everybody saw what it was. It was a 3-hour empty blue screen effect. I'm talking about the big ones, the ones that everybody knows, most people love. I'm talking about the milestones, the creme de la creme. I'm talking about Peter Jackson's renditions of The Lord of the Rings. Now, to be clear, I am a huge Tolkien fan. I grew up on The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings Trilogy. The stories were so well told with no stone left unturned. Everything had a reason as well as an explanation for it. There was an entire world and entire world history behind it, and that is no exaggeration. The trilogy of The Lord of the Rings is basically the end of the story. There are thousands of years of history and detail behind it, starting with the Silmarillion. The beginning of its lore actually goes as far back as to this world's God creating heaven and its angels. It mirrors Christianity since it also explains one of the angels had such a strong sense of pride he would eventually be cast out with his followers, which is what brought evil into the world. Melkor was his name, but Morgoth was the name he later would be worshipped under. He was the original Dark Lord before Sauron. Matter of fact, Sauron was a servant of his. Okay, I'm not going to do a scene-by-scene comparison to the book. I will, however, go back to the book when it sounds like the movie's pulling something out of its ass that should have actually meant something. Take Morgoth, for example. I don't even know why I'm bringing him up. I mean, it's not like they even mention him in the movies. Alright. I can see I'm getting a little nitpicky.
A Balrog of Morgoth.
Wait, what?
Of Morgoth.
The fuck is a Morgoth? I mean, I know what it is, but I read the book. The fuck is a general audience supposed to do with that? It sounds like a bad place or an evil fortress. It doesn't even sound like a god or a demon. And why even bother bringing it up? It just sounds like you're making shit up. And that's my problem with the movie, is they take things that should be significant, and their excuse for not giving it any kind of backstory or explanation is by adding the words of or from after it. Why am I complaining about this? Because it sounds like a bunch of made-up bullshit.
The great watchtower of Amonsoon.
The mines of Moria.
Crabine from Dunland.
The pass of Karathras.
To the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
A Balrog of Morgoth.
Bullshit. It sounds so forced. To the bridge of Khazad-dûm, to the pass of Karathras, to the television of Panasonic, to the Lord of Hardwitha, to the garbage can of Kicking It Out to the Bakken. I can do it too. Doesn't sound any less impressive on this end either. And the only reason it works in the books and not the movies is because in the books it doesn't sound like they're saying shit they can't pronounce.
We must take the palace of Karathras.
Where?
That place I just said.
But you didn't say anything.
Up there.
Then why did you just...
Time is short.
Okay. You may have noticed I'm only playing clips from the first movie. Believe me when I say that this sewage that's been flushed down from Olympus doesn't stop there. One abomination at a time. Oh, and for those who want to defend this movie with its extended versions, I'm way ahead of you. So, where do we start? I suppose the beginning would be the best place, but before we do, I'd rather give some credit where credit's actually due. First thing I want to talk about is the scenery. The movie isn't a total bag of ass. To Jackson's credit, you can certainly see there was some serious effort put into the visuals. I think it was a year before they started filming, they found their spot in New Zealand to call the Shire and started planting the bushes and trees and building up the garden set up for when they do film. That's really cool. The plants are real and weren't just props, and with the exception of Bilbo's birthday party and inside Bilbo's house, they aren't using green screens or plastic bushes. That is the Shire. That's exactly what I pictured the Shire to look like, and they really went all out to authenticate it. Speaking of authentication, the armor and the weapons were all forged by hand in the way that it would have been done in that estimated time period. Something Peter Jackson would not have done any other way.
Good gracious, man.
And I dare you to tell me that Rivendell could have possibly been more stunning. In the books, the visual description of most of Rivendell can be, at times, vague. But I think they nailed it in this movie. It looks like the most peaceful place on the planet, and it's just a marvel to see. Visually, this movie is absolutely beautiful. It's very satisfying to watch just to appreciate the work that went into it. Rivendell or the Shire are places I'd be very, very happy to relax and retire in, at least until my creditors found me. I also want to make mention this is one of my favorite casts of all time. Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, Ian McKellen as Gandalf, Sean Bean as Boromir, Hugo Weaving as Elrond, and my absolute favorite was Sean Astin as Sam. There is nothing that Sean Astin could have done to improve his role or convince the viewer he was, without a doubt, Samwise Gamgee. The rest of the characters were very well cast too. Matter of fact, out of the insane amount of people we're supposed to keep track of in this movie, there's only 2 I take issue with. Unfortunately, they aren't little parts either. They're pretty significant to the movie. Sean Astin definitely helps to offset them, though. And with that being said, let's take a look at the reason we need Sean Astin to begin with. This nauseating crybaby is our main character, Frodo Baggins, played by Elijah Wood. I hate this performance. I don't know if I can totally blame him, or if Jackson himself should be the first in line for a nuclear missile up his ass as the director. Frodo is totally useless and completely pointless in this movie. His only function is to walk with a piece of jewelry that no one else can maintain self-control around. Oh, except for Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Elrond, Sam, Merry, Pippin, the other elves, the other dwarves, and everyone but Gandalf and Boromir. Totally worthless. Hey, I know. Let's give it to the guy with no personality, no balls, and a godly servant to carry him the whole way. No, don't give it to Sam. We'd actually miss him if he died. Let Frodo have it. He could be enemy fodder. It'd be funny. I mean, Jesus Christ. Every time we see this pussy, all we see are his big whiny eyes, usually a slow turn, and his open fucking mouth. He looks like a sad puppy at a dog pound. Even when he does show anger in the later movies, you just can't buy it. It's total bullshit and it makes you laugh. I mean, in the first movie you got Sam. He's dumb, he's naive, and obedient. Why not tie a stick to his head with the ring dangling at the end of it, point it towards Mordor, and say, if you get the ring, you get some bacon. Not only would the job have been done, but it probably would have been done a hell of a lot faster. That's enough of Frodo. He was totally pointless in the first movie without any growth or understanding. Just melodramatics and bad poses. Now, the other one...
The other one? There's 2 of them?
This is tough. I'm altogether not a fan of the actress herself, but holy sweet mother of Meecrob.
I knew it! Meecrob! God must hate it as much as I do!
I despise, and dare I say loathe, the portrayal of Arwen in this movie. I don't know how else to say it. The portrayal of this character is so bad and so poorly written. Sarah Brightman was actually asked what she thought of Liv Tyler as Arwen, and when she was asked to watch a clip, this is the response that she gave.
I would rather be blind.
Well, oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my... I wonder if they told her she was going to be in 2 more movies.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't panic. Stay in your seats. It's all part of the show.
Honestly, I can't blame her. I mean, I know it's just a movie. I know that. But this is supposed to be the geek Bible. And what would you do if you found out that your Bible was completely full of shit? I guess my big problem stems from the fact that her character was intentionally altered to create a Wonder Woman for the trilogy. I'm not sure if she's someone that's supposed to draw in a female audience, give them someone to relate to, or maybe aspire to be. Whatever her purpose was, it was completely unnecessary. Well, maybe unnecessary wasn't the right word. I mean, putting a touch of salt in your McDonald's french fry is unnecessary because it's already covered in salt. I mean, it ain't gonna hurt you, but it wasn't really needed. This is like taking the 17 packets of salt the cashier gave you and dumping it on a single fry. Why would you do that to yourself? I mean, it doesn't taste good, it's not good for you, yet you power your way through it anyway. Why add the salt? Why add that much? Why would you put yourself through that? I have no idea. And this is how I feel about Arwen. She's introduced to us as a brave and death-defying elf. She's supposed to be a warrior. She shows up like a bat out of hell as a lone wanderer to find the company that was in so much trouble. But she's more of a mannequin than a real person with interchangeable reactions. Hell, not even the movements are any different. She reminds me of a Mrs. Potato Head whose owner ended up losing all of the pieces except for the blank stare and the puffed out lips it already had on. I mean, how boring can you be? It makes me think of the flying cut from Superman 4. They use the same cut for every scene he flies in. The only difference between Arwen and Superman is that it seems to take Arwen several takes to get her one shot right, and they just cycled through them with each scene she had. God, that's annoying.
The world is changed.
So the movie begins with the origins of the Rings of Power. Well, more or less.
It began with the forging of the great rings. 3 were given to the elves, immortal, wisest, and fairest of all beings. 7 to the dwarf lords, great miners and craftsmen of the mountain halls. And 9 rings were gifted to the race of men, who above all else desire power.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. This is a problem I've had with the movies from the start. The Rings of Power. They went to elves, men, and dwarves. Awesome! The fuck did the rings do? What the fuck did these rings do? The movie never tells you what these rings do. And that seems like an important plot point to me. What is this great power they have? It says they help the wearer to govern their people. How? Telepathy? Mind control? Wisdom? Well, the one ring was made to control the others. That one makes you invisible and turns hobbits into frogs after 500 years. Very appealing. But what do the other rings do? Do they make the wearer invisible? No, that can't be it because they're all wearing them and we can see them plain as day. But wait, the one ring makes you invisible, but we can still see Sauron. We notice one of the elves with a ring is Galadriel. In the extended version, we even see her wearing the ring and we get its name.
This is Nennu, the Ring of Adamant, and I am its keeper.
The dwarves got 7 of them, but that was just so they didn't feel left out of the movie. They obviously don't do anything since they're never mentioned again, but my first question stands. What the fuck do these rings do? And what would the one actually be controlling? Here's the next question. Who forged the rings? Are they good? Are they bad? All we know is that the 9 kings of men who got them turned into evil, immortal, horse-riding curtains who apparently scare the shit out of everybody. But wait, Galadriel's ring didn't change her into anything. Here's another problem I have with the plot. Isildur was a king who watched his father die, had his sword broken, and got in a lucky shot. The way it's portrayed in the movie, this is a 1 in a million shot, but it could have happened to anyone in that situation who wanted to take the swing. And look at his face! Yeah, I'm keeping this and there's nothing you can do about it. What a punk. In fact, he isn't even referred to in the movie as anything more than Aragorn's great-grandfather to the umpteenth degree. He isn't remembered for ruling Gondor or even taking out Sauron, just for keeping the ring. The biggest blunder in Middle-earth history. What is remembered, though? His goddamn sword! The inanimate object that Isildur swung at his big-ass opponent is remembered with reverence and respect.
Homer Simpson was the real hero here. He jury-rigged the door closed using this.
Hey, what is that? It's an inanimate carbon rod!
Look at the way he even dies. How can you feel anything for this character who just screams the words greedy and selfish? Now, we had no time to understand him, and we will have no time to understand him. The few glimpses of him that we got are that of greed. Fuck this guy, I'm glad he's dead. It's too bad, too, because in the books he was a great king. They even make it look like he was the last king up until now when there was actually a string of 16 other kings and I think 1 queen before the line was finally broken. I can actually see why they left that out, though, because with the story being as vague as it was, if they were to add that to it, it just would have caused more confusion. Alright, I don't think I need to be too destructive of the rest of the opening scene. Shit, we'll never get this done. So we cut to Bilbo, who waited 60 years to start his memoirs, apparently, as he's constantly bothered by confounded relatives.
Got to get away from these confounded relatives hanging on the bell all day, never giving me a moment's peace.
As he shouts for Frodo to answer the door, he finds that Frodo isn't home. Where is he? He snuck off to the woods with a hidden mirror inside of a book so he can work on his upcoming headshots. He sees Gandalf on his way into the Shire and smugly tells him he's late.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Oh, let's see. Translated from wizard to hobbit. Let's see, that would be Shire dialect at the beginning of the fall. Fuck you, you lucky arcade. Bilbo was having a party for his
111th birthday!
or 111th birthday, and Frodo suspects there's more to this epic gathering than meets the eye. And though Gandalf clearly knows something about it, he isn't much help.
Alright then, keep your secrets. Good. But I know you have something to do with it.
Good gracious me.
So we see that Bilbo has a lot on his mind and is planning to disappear from the Shire. Literally. And wander Middle-earth like he once did with the dwarves. He decides to leave everything he owns, including the ring, to his nephew and his heir, Frodo. But he finds that leaving it behind is a lot harder than he expected, and is even willing to get violent to keep it.
The business isn't of yours when I do with my own things.
I think you've had that ring quite long enough.
You want it for yourself!
Bilbo Baggins!
Woof! You don't fucking talk to me like that! You little piece of shit!
You know, I think I finally understand what the ring does. Not only does it make its wearer invisible, but it seems to make anybody who wants it bipolar. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Watch.
Well, if I'm angry, it's your fault!
Curse you! And all the halflings! Oh, Frodo. All shall love me understand!
And this is just the first movie. Although he's had long enough to think about it, Gandalf sees that there's something more about the ring than he originally thought. He's just deciding now, after 60 years of its finding, that something about the ring, besides the invisibility, besides how and where he found it, besides the fact that Bilbo hasn't aged past the day that he found it, maybe he should look into it. Okay, maybe you can call this a nitpick, but... He rides to Gondor. That isn't actually specified now, but that is the citadel of Gondor called Minas Tirith. But he rides all the way to Gondor and then comes back in what looks like a day or two? Nothing's different. Nothing's changed. And from what we see, he was gone for such a short amount of time, and then he comes back and freaks out.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
Again, probably a nitpick, but in the book, Gandalf was gone for 12 years. He made brief visits to the Shire for the first 3, and then disappeared altogether for another 9. It bothers me because in the movie it looks like Gandalf rides to Gondor and back in a week. It takes everybody else at least 2 movies to get that far. Yes, he was alone, and yes, it doesn't actually tell us how long he was gone. All the same. He actually takes the ring out of the same envelope for Gandalf said it when he left. Are you going to tell me that Frodo was so immune to this that he wasn't at all curious about what it would be like to be invisible? This is a total crock of shit. Frodo has a ring. A magic ring of power. Bilbo kept no secrets from him. He knew exactly what it was before he inherited it. You know he never let him try it on, though. You can't tell me that anybody wouldn't have been curious enough to put this thing on with or without its power of enchantment and appeal just once, just to see if he could see through his own eyelids. I call bullshit. I'm sorry, this bugs the shit out of me. How long was Gandalf gone? If it was a week, you can understand why Frodo wouldn't have touched it because maybe he was busy with his own affairs. But if it was a week, how the hell does Gandalf get to the other side of the continent and back with the information he's looking for? It makes no sense. Now, if it was 12 years, why is nothing different? Nobody has aged. Frodo you understand because he's got the ring, but Sam, Merry, and Pippin? They still look like children. I don't mean their height. They haven't aged at all. The decor inside Bag End is no different. The Shire, from what we see, is no different. That makes no sense, and I call bullshit on that. And I refuse to believe that he wouldn't have put that ring on just once, just to see what it would have been like for him. I guess since the movie's pretty, we're just gonna let that go.
Good gracious me.
Alright, so we get as much of a backstory as we will get on Sauron and the Ring, and Frodo realizes that if he's drawing Sauron's agents to him, he can't stay around his loved ones. So, what does he do? He leaves the Shire and takes his loved ones with him. The only people that seem to matter to him are coming with him into the heart of danger. Seems legit. Again, if I'm going to tear all this to pieces, we will be here forever. Without all the details, Frodo leaves right away instead of gracefully finding a reason to move so the locals will have something to say if someone comes looking for him. They take Farmer Maggot out of the story with the exception of his scythe. Merry and Pippin just kind of hang around long enough to find out what's going on, and they just end up in Bree instead of that adventure through the Old Forest where they meet Old Tom Bombadil, get caught by a barrow wight, and find the weapons they carry through the story. Now, I will give Peter Jackson this break. The Old Forest was a chapter in the Fellowship of the Ring that could easily be excluded without taking away from the rest of the story. I'll explain. In the Old Forest, we're introduced to a character named Tom Bombadil. This guy would be absolutely impossible to portray and also be taken seriously. Everything he says is in song or rhyme. The guy doesn't walk or run. He has this weird stomping dance. His weapon is literally to sing to a tree or a ghost until they give up or die. Frodo has a song he can sing and summon him anywhere in the forest to come and save his stupid ass. When he wants to ride instead of stomp dance, he rides his little pony named Old Fatty Lumpkin. Again, I think Jackson gets a pass for skipping this. So we see that the hobbits show up at the Prancing Pony in Bree. In the book, Gandalf was supposed to meet them there because he knew and trusted the landlord. In this, they just kind of end up there by chance, where Frodo cries for attention again by squeaking his friend's name, falling down, showing everybody the forbidden fruit that he has in his hands, and having it fall on his finger! What the fuck, Jackson? What the fuck? Why the fuck do you keep changing shit? What was wrong with what actually happened in the book? Frodo was dancing on a table singing a goofy-ass song to the friendly locals. His hand was in his pocket, he fell off the table, and the ring slipped on his finger. That was possible! What you just showed borderlines impossibility. It's so improbable, it couldn't have happened. He still hasn't told Merry and Pippin what's going on yet? How far do they think they're going with him? Why are they following him? You can't tell me that when Aragorn snatched his stupid ass up, he wouldn't have just taken the ring to avoid the stupid mistakes he was bound to make, or he would have just given it to his stout-hearted little servant.
You have a stout heart, little hobbit.
Here, you take this, your master's an idiot. So, in spite of the obvious flare that Frodo flashed for the Nazgul to follow, Aragorn manages to sneak them out of Bree and is on their way to Rivendell. Here, we get a comedic attempt at showing the difference between a hobbit and the seasoned traveler like Aragorn.
We do not stop till nightfall.
What about breakfast?
We've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Oh, that's just silly. They decide to hold out the night at the Watchtower, which recently held an epic battle between Gandalf and the Nazgul, but that wasn't important enough for the movie. Here, we see those pesky hobbits with their pesky stomachs are at it again.
What are you doing? Tomatoes, sausages, nice crispy bacon. We saved some for you.
As Frodo wakes up and sees the fire and smells the food, he decides to throw a temper tantrum and stomp all over the other hobbits' hard work. And we see the Nazgul got all they needed to figure out where they are. As they scale this incredible plateau, the hobbits ready themselves for battle, and I notice something is missing. Where is Aragorn? Why isn't he there? Did he just take off to scout ahead with no warning or instruction? Or did he realize that Lord Sam can handle anything that comes his way? Either way, Aragorn is gone just long enough for the battle to begin and Frodo to be stabbed by a poisonous blade. When does he decide to show up? Just as Hollywood would have it, he does in a blaze of glory with a sword in one hand and a branch on fire in the other to scare off the enemy, but just a second too late as the damage has been done.
Look, Frodo. It's Mr. Bilbo's trolls.
Oh look, a reference to The Hobbit besides.
If you're referring to the incident with the dragon, I was barely involved. All I did was give your uncle a little nudge out of the door.
I was dreading this. We have the arrival of Frodo's savior. What should have been a high elf warrior named Glorfindel quickly becomes our heroine of this movie, Arwen. I've already explained my problems with her, so I'll just refer you to my previous rant.
Right hard.
You know, that kind of bugs me too. I can't imagine a man of such nobility giving his wife, girlfriend, fiancé, whatever, a time bomb to bring across the land to get defused by the bomb squad, no matter how much faster he is. That's basically what he's doing. Not only is Frodo set to blow at any minute, but she has all 9 of these riders coming after her. Is her horse really that much faster? She already showed up to save the day. Why doesn't she just turn around and cut those cloaks to pieces? Oh, I see. This is the equivalent of, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. When she gets across the river to her father's land, she should be safe. Who needs Brinks or ADT? She just has to use a creepy reverb to call the flood filled with water horses. Of course! This is how you stop an intruder in Rivendell. Frodo finally gives up at the gate and gives into complete pretentiousness. Since he is tripping balls, he slips into the Matrix where Agent Smith is speaking gibberish to him. As it turns out, Agent Smith was actually Elrond of Rivendell, and he was singing every song he could to try and save him. Seems legit. Frodo wakes up to find Gandalf sitting next to him while he sleeps. Well, now he wants some answers.
What happened, Gandalf? Why didn't you meet us?
I love the look on Gandalf's face. It's that look you give when you're trying to play dumb when someone tries to call bullshit on something you just said, but you're trying to look confused like you didn't just fucking say it. Where you been, Gandalf? Can you please elaborate? I've been many places. I know we were actually told where Gandalf was, but I like how the book did it where they wouldn't tell you shit until this point. It gave some legitimate mystery to the first half of the story. Gandalf went to see the head of his order only to find out he's been turned to the dark side. I'm not really sure what screaming sign finally tipped off Gandalf, but whenever you have Christopher Lee with a look and smile like that, you need to run away like your underwear is made of piranha pheromones. I mean, every sentence is really just a long-winded way of saying,
I'm evil.
I mean, in all this talk, Gandalf has a look like Saruman doesn't realize he shit his pants and is trying to think of a way to tell him. Gandalf knows something smells funny, but he can't quite get over that hump to figure out what it is. I mean, Saruman has to literally say, "We must join with him, Gandalf," before he finally understands.
We must join with him, Gandalf.
And Circle gets a square. Christopher Lee does a fantastic job as Saruman. They couldn't have found anybody better for this role. I do kind of think Peter Jackson butchered the character just a little bit where it seemed like he wasn't really that much of a threat. I mean, he could have been, but I mean, he really was kind of just an annoyance in the background. We're going to stop right here. Tune in next time when we continue our analysis of the Fellowship of the Ring.